Greetings, Duelists, and welcome to another deck report. This is Season 4, Week 3, Part 2. If you have not seen Part 1 yet, I will post it in the description. So, I based another Maliss list. This is a little bit different from the last one. Actually, it's very, very different. But the Punk Maliss version that I built last time kind of gave me the incentive of making this new version, because once I was playing that version, I noticed there were a few choke points and a few potholes that the deck had that I kind of really wanted to address if I wanted to play this deck moving forward. And thankfully, I did find an approach that is very effective. I will explain the theory behind everything with this list. And there are some things I want to talk about with the side deck as well. So fair warning, this is going to be a very lengthy profile. I will post a timestamp in the description, and the timestamp will going to divide the segments for this deck profile, because there is a lot to talk about. So without further ado, we'll go to the list, and then I'll talk about the event that I played, the matchups that I faced, and the ins and outs, and like unfortunate circumstances with this list, because this list is not perfect at all, but it is a list that I really enjoy. Okay, so 3 Dormouse, 3 Rabbit, 3 Cat. 3 Cat is imperative in this build. Magna, Baldrake, Saronir, triple Druid Worm, Meowmine, Dustcaper, and that's it for monsters. 17 monsters in total. Spell cards, triple Underground, double Allure, triple Talents, 3 Mind Control, 2 Enemy Controllers, 1 Change of Heart, 1 Monster Reborn, Thrust, Called By, Sark, Terraforming, Duster, and then the 3 Malice trap cards. So 20 spells, 3 traps. This is a 40 card total. It's been a while since I played that deck at exactly 40. Extra deck: Decoder, Lingaribo, SP, IP, Blizzard, Splash, the 3 Queens, the Griffin, Firewall, Access Code, Neo Tempest, Packbit, and the Save Worm. Side deck, there are 3 cards I'm going to save for last. But for the other cards, it's going to be 3 Shifter, 3 Ash, 3 Impulse, and 3 Barriers. Okay, so time for explanations. If you guys haven't noticed by now, this is a board breaker. This is a board breaker control switch version of Maliss. I go second with this build, and the pretty much the ideal goal behind this is to like pick apart your opponent's board with all these control cards, because in the current format, like Maliss and Ryziel are not putting up boards that are unbreakable. They're not like those typical glass cannon decks where if they go first they automatically win the game. Those 2 decks pretty much are very mid-range when it comes to their inboards, and this is where these cards are really good. The thing about going first with Maliss, and I noticed that with the Punk version, is that Despite Maliss being good against a plethora of hand traps, Maliss is not good against most armies paired with those hand traps. So by going second, I eliminate the middleman. I don't have to worry about most armies on game one. And with how powerful Maliss engine is at pushing through boards with like enough extenders, I feel like just one or two board breaking cards is just enough to like break established boards. The other thing that it makes this build really good is that like you have an edge in the mirror match because in the mirror match there's no real end board that they can make that really just contests with these cards. Let's say for example they summon the Neo Tempest Terahertz, and with the Terahertz they dump like the Deceive Worm. Well, you're playing 6 Bystials, so with your 6 Bystials or any combination of these control cards, you just shut down like the Deceive Worm play. So you can Bystial away the Deceive Worm and then just control take their monster, and they're forced to do something about it. If they play Pack Bit, they're probably going to Pack Bit to push the firewall back into their spell into the spell and trap zone, their own spell and trap zone, which pretty much makes it so you already dealt with the monster and your talent is now live, and you still haven't started with your initial plays. If your opponent ends on something like this, which is Griffin Firewall, or they end on Griffin plus any of these two, you can take some of these monsters. By taking away their Griffin, like their plays are become very awkward. They need to start playing like for these potential cards. The moment your opponent summons the Binder on you, you can use any of the control cards, take their Binder, and with Binder set any of your Maliss traps, like set any of the Maliss trap cards, and then you start playing the game like that way. And then you can just link away the white Binder for like any other Maliss name. You can even white Binder into another white Binder. So like there's no real end board that the mirror match does that really scares you. It is the Ryziel deck, like if it's the Fiendsmith version, like all these cards just really cook them. If they summon the DDD monster, any of these cards can just take away the DDD and you no longer have to fear Lacrima and Requiem anymore. So that's already a way you start winning the game. If they summon Desiree, or they attempt to summon Desiree, that's where the Bystials come in. Because once you prevent Desiree access, or Desiree equipped with Sequence specifically, all these cards are really good against their board anyway. Also, these cards bait out Detonator immediately, so like you just eliminate a portion of what is strong against like the Ryziel end board as well. Druid's Worm is already a really good card against like the Ryziel board to begin with. So if you pair the Druid's Worm with just any of these control cards, it's just really, really powerful. But yeah, this was the approach that I kind of wanted to take with the deck. This does have a few caveats, and sadly I did face those caveats during the weekend. So I played at a 6-round 1K pricing tournament in WeBugs games this past weekend, and I ended on a record of 3-3. I lost every single die roll, which is perfectly fine by me because losing every die roll means that my opponent won't caught on to what I'm trying to do with this deck, because I am blind going second. However, out of the matches that I faced 3 mirror matches. I faced 1 Ryziel, I faced 1 White Forest, and I faced 1 Centurion. Sadly, my two of my losses were to the Centurion and the White Forest player. Those are two incredibly strong decks, and outside of your bystials, you don't have real defensive cards against them if they go first. And if that deck establishes their full board, it's almost impossible to win. Like, the White Forest deck ends on 2 to 3 Omni Negates, and the Diabelle just summons like a plethora of other synchros that can just bother you. The Centurion deck ends on Cosmic Blazar Dragon as part of the Urn board, and they can summon a second Blazar Dragon, which just is very problematic for you. Funnily enough, I lost to a Centurion player not because of their Urn board. I lost to a Centurion player because they had 2 Bystials in their hand, and they used those Bystials to play around like my board breakers. And that was very unfortunate. I lost game 3 to that same Centurion player because they flipped their Can Be Only One. And outside of the Bystials, this deck is entirely Cybers. This is pretty much pure Maliss. Like, I'm not playing the Punk build, I'm not playing like other hybrids. So that Floodgate was just enough to win the game because I had no real outs to it. And one theoretical out could have been like these control cards. Just grab any of these control cards, grab any of their monsters, and just link away into something else, and then link that away into Espilito Knight to just get rid of the TC Boo. But sadly, I did not open any of these cards. I pretty much opened an almost full like Malice name hand, and that's not good against that Floodgate. Against the White Forest deck, I lost game 3, pretty much because like I opened only engine cards going second, and you're not going to win the game with only engine cards. Like, any amount of non-engine could have won me that match, but it's very, very unfortunate. I lost to a 2% chance. Like, my opening hand game 3 against the White Forest player was these 2 cards, this, and the Triple Thrust. Which the Triple Thrust is good, but it's not good enough with just these other cards. So, like, comment down below how you feel about redundancy with this deck, because that is one of those unfixable issues. But yeah, that was another one of my losses. And my last loss was to the mirror match. I did lose 1-1 mirror match. Shoutouts to Borgi. He's the one who told me to go to the event. He's the one who convinced me to play at that event. And I did tell him about my list. I told him everything I wanted to do. I told him about my game plan. And he took all that knowledge that I taught him into his advantage. And like, he actually played cleverly. He did sack me because he did open triple engage. He is playing the Sky Striker version. However, the way that he won against the mirror match was exactly how I win the mirror. And it was basically using Widow Anchor and triple talents to take 2 of my monsters and just start picking apart my board with them and just OTKing me. Which is the way you should be winning the mirror match. So, yeah. All in all, I am very happy with this list. The list is not perfect. For those weird matchups with those unbreakable board type decks, I do play like other cards for it. Like, if I would have opened Shifter against the White Forest deck, I don't think White Forest was ever going to win that match. If I would have opened Ash combined with Impulse, that also would have helped with that match. Opening multiple bystials also helps with that matchup as well. So it's not like I wasn't prepared for those decks to begin with. But again, if I don't draw these side cards, there's only so much I can do. So, excuse me, I have allergies. Yeah, there's only so much you can do against that. So now that I talked about the main deck and the reason I opt to go second, let's talk about this last card that I have right here. So if you notice something, you know that I am not playing Shifter in the main deck. And I don't know if you noticed with my side deck, I am also not citing Artifact Lancia, or at least I haven't shown Artifact Lancia. I kind of want to talk about Artifact Lancia first before showing this card. So, I personally don't think Lancia is good against the mirror match. And the number one reason that is because if you build an established board and you Lancia your opponent, your end board just becomes significantly weaker and just gets capitalized by opponent's board breakers. Let's say, for example, you end on terahertz and you end up Lanciaing your opponent. Well, if you do that, your Decipher no longer works. So any spell control card or any like board breaking card like Feather Duster just blows you out of the game. Your Decipher doesn't work. Your Bystials don't work either. Your MTPO7 does not have its banish effect anymore. Your White Binder cannot rebuild your board again. Your Heart of Cryptor also no longer works. So there are so many cards that just are just unworkable with Lancia on board. You cannot IP into SP. You cannot SP like their board away or anything. So I kind of wanted a card for the mirror, but at the same time, I wanted to make sure that I don't get punished by cards that can punish you in the mirror match. And Lancia is not one of them. The one other card that I thought about was Chaos Hunter, but the problem with Chaos Hunter is, imagine if you're playing against the board breaker. Like, imagine if my opponent summons like the Chaos Hunter, and I have these cards. Like, the moment your opponent does talents or thrust into talents and take your Chaos Hunter, you automatically lose the game because now they can banish their resources and you cannot. So Chaos Hunter is also it's a hazard against the mirror match. So that's not a safe card either. And I pretty much arrived at the conclusion that if you want to beat the mirror match, you need a card that is specifically tailored for the mirror match, but does not end up punishing you against all those cards. And the card that I am playing that actually does that is Winter Cherries. So by playing Winter Cherries, and whenever I play the mirror match, I just pair the Winter Cherries alongside Ash Blossom and Dominus Impulse. Any 2 to 3 combination of these cards should stop your opponent from playing entirely if you're playing the mirror match. Let's say, for example, you have Ash and Impulse. So what you do here is, let's say your opponent is starting to combo off. And let's say they get to the Red Ramson route. The part where you have the Red Ramson with the TB11. If you've been playing the Maliss, deck, you already know what play I'm talking about right by now. the part where you already have Ramson on board. Excuse me, allergies. So we're at this point where you have the Ramson and you have the TB11. They banish the Ramson to summon the cat from the deck. If you're familiar with Maliss, you already know about this M word. I mean, about this part of the combo. So what you'll do here is, when they try to red Ramson, you use the Dominus Impulse, and you shut down the Ramson from coming back. And this is a really big blowout, because not only are they not getting their Ramson back, they're not getting their Dotscaper summon as well. So now you eliminate 2 free bodies from their board, and they pretty much have to play with the Chessy Cat and another extender. They still have the Malice in Underground, so they can play that way. But it's just very, very awkward, like, playing that way. You force them into the Splash Mage route very quickly. And forcing them to go Splash Mage means that they Cyber Slot, which means you no longer have to fear Bystials, you no longer have to fear, like, Nightmare Griffin being part of their board either. You no longer have to fear, like, a few other things. But this is where it actually gets enticing. So we talked about combinations, right? So we use the Impulse for the Ramson. If they get to a point where they played through you stopping their red Ramson and they summon White Binder, the moment they banish their White Binder, you can Ash Blossom, and then their White Binder is also gone, and you pretty much just put them on very minimal resources. If they have 06 set, like the GWC 06, they have to choose whether to bring back Binder or Ramson. They cannot bring back both. And let's say, for example, they bring back Binder. Their best M board would be Binder by banishing Rabbit, and Rabbit setting 07. And that's very, very easily, that's very easy to deal with, especially if you're playing this build version of the deck where you have all these board breaking cards. You just take away their Binder, and then you start playing, and yeah, it just gets significantly easier to deal with the mirror. Let's say, for example, you have this combination. You have Ash and Winter Cherries. So, pretty much the same thing. You Winter Cherries and banish the Red Ramson. And you no longer have to worry about Red Ramson, which forces them to go Binder very quickly. And then once they go and do Binder, you Ash Blossom, and the Binder doesn't come back, and it's the same thing. If you have Reaper Impulse, same deal. You Impulse the Ramson, and then you Winter Cherries the Binder. And this is even worse, because since the Binder was never summoned, their only way of recovering this back is if they summon Hearts of Cryptor. They need to summon Cryptor, they need to Cryptor put back this into the extra deck, and then summon back the Binder. And this deck can do only so much with so minimal resources if you blow them out that way. So that's a way for you to beat the mirror match, and you don't get punished by all those board establishing cards or getting your own engine shut down. So yeah, that's pretty much like something I kind of wanted to teach. Sadly, against my Maliss opponent, Shoutouts to Boji again, on game 2, I opened Triple Impulse. Triple Impulse, no Ash, no Reaper, and the Impulse on the Red Ramson really stopped them a lot from playing. However, I only had 3 impulse and 2 engine cards and nothing else. This is a 2% chance. This is a 2% hand. Like, you should never have a hand with exactly 3 of this, 3 of a kind. But that's Yugi. There's no real way to play around that. Like, if you brick, you brick. So I'm not I'm not ashamed of that mirror match. Like, I think I'm not sad or anything that I lost to it. It is part of the game. Again, shoutouts to Boji, because, like, again, despite me losing the mirror match in such an unfortunate way, game one was so incredible. Like, game one, he made me go first, and that was very smart of him to do, because I did open double mind control and triple talents. However, I did make a very, very strong inboard despite all of that. And the thing about it is that he opened triple engage, and yeah, I can only do so much against triple engage, 1 talent, and 2 engine cards. So yeah, I hope you found this informative to your liking and understanding. I really, really like this build of Maliss. I think this is my favorite Maliss build so far. My losses were just very uncontrollable losses. And I'm not ashamed of that. That would happen with any other version of the deck, no matter what. So I hope you enjoyed this as well as I did. I hope you enjoyed the explanations behind everything. But yeah, keep practicing and keep dueling.